I think I just uncovered the Democrats' October surprise in July for this election cycle, and you've got to see what I found. And this time they're using Project 2025 as their hit piece. What's funny is the last time they tried to do this, it took years to unravel who was responsible for it in 2016. Now it only took me a few hours. I hope you can help me spread this. This is important. They're lying and gaslighting you and the American people because they know they're going to lose the election. Do you remember back in 2016 when Hillary Clinton pushed out the Steele dossier, the Trump-Russian collusion hoax? Do you remember who was behind that? An organization called Perkins Coie, who was led by a guy by the name of Mark Elias. Mark Elias is one of the most scandalous, disgusting, rotten Democrat operatives, an election interference specialist, really. He drove that hoax. You won't believe what I just found Mark Elias doing with Project 2025. So it didn't make sense to me why all of a sudden Project 2025 was running all over the internet and the propaganda artists were creating an enormous amount of propaganda around it. And what was more important is I've actually read most of the documents. So almost everything that I was hearing about Project 2025 from the left didn't make sense because it wasn't in the document. Well, I found the answer. This is an almost 50-page document put together by an organization called Democracy Forward. And if you're interested in who they are, you should go take a look because it's littered with some of the most far-left radical propagandists that I've ever come across. And if you go through this document, you're going to notice that every one of the politically charged talking points that you've been hearing on this platform and others come from here. The idea that Project 2025 is going to ban contraception comes from here. The idea that Project 2025 is going to destroy the environment comes from here. The idea that Project 2025 is going to allow slavery to be re-implemented comes from here. The problem? None of that is actually in Project 2025. And here's a perfect example. This is one section where it talks about how Project 2025 is going to eliminate a concept called disparate treatment theory, which is used to fight against discrimination, and they twist it to suggest that it's going to be used to allow us to go back to a period pre-1965. The problem, even the citation on this article is wrong. If you go to page 72, chapter 3, it doesn't talk at all about the disparate impact theory. In fact, it talks about merit pay. So they're lying to people. And every one of the talking points, it's here. So I decided to check who's responsible for this. And what do I find at the very top? The chair of the Democracy Forward, Mark Elias. You know, the same Mark Elias who's responsible for bankrolling the Steele dossier. The same Mark Elias that the DNC had to fire for lying to a court and to a special counsel. And the same Mark Elias that the Fifth Circuit Court had to sanction for filing false motions. And yes, the same Mark Elias who was responsible for the drop boxes and the violating of state election law all around the country in 2020. That same guy who created the Russian hoax in 2016, an election interference specialist that the Democrat Party turns to when they need to interfere in election, is responsible for that. And that, my friends, is what is being used to destroy the Donald Trump campaign, just like they did in 2016. They take a lie, they put it into the media. It's called a wrap-up smear. And then they say that Donald Trump is responsible for it. That's how it's done. And that's what they're doing right now.